What is going on, YouTube? Working on a little custom today that I think will be pretty sweet. It is one of my favorite cars of all time, the 67 Chevelle. Check this out. This is just a way cool casting, and I think I have a pretty cool idea on what I want to do to customize this bad boy. So there it is. Already looks pretty sweet the way it is. I like the sponsor decals there. Pretty cool. But I think we're going to put a heck of a lot more sponsors on there. So, kick back, relax, grab your favorite beverage of choice, and let's get working on this thing. As usual, the first step is to drill out the posts and completely disassemble the car. I had a question earlier about how I remove the wheels and axles on these, and for a plastic base I use a metal pick. I get it underneath the axle and I kind of move it towards the tabs and lift up, and it pops the wheels and axles right out. If you didn't want to do it that way, all you have to do is clip the tabs and the wheels and axles will fall right out. Once the car is completely disassembled, it is time to strip the paint. Now before I strip the paint on this one, because it is a brand new Hot Wheel and the clear coat that they use on these new Hot Wheels is pretty strong, I'm scuffing up the paint with 2000 grit sandpaper just to give the citrus strip paint stripper something to hold on to when I apply it. I've done this in the past when stripping the paint off these cars, and it greatly reduces the time it takes for the paint stripper to lift the paint off, so well worth it. I'm making sure I go over the entire car with the sandpaper. I probably could have gone with a more aggressive sandpaper, but I figured the 2000 grit would be just fine. Once I got it scuffed up enough, I went ahead and applied the citrus strip paint stripper. I applied a pretty heavy coat of the paint stripper on there, hoping that it would help lift the paint off there quicker. Now this is the car after the paint stripper had been sitting on there for about 45 minutes. And as you can see, that paint is not coming off there very easily. As much as it frustrated me that the paint wasn't coming off there, I was actually kind of impressed. That's some pretty decent paint you got going on there, Hot Wheels. This is what it looked like, and if I was going for a old rusted out barn find theme, this would have been a perfect way to do it, I think. Maybe in a future build that might be a good option, but not what I'm going for right now. So I applied some more paint stripper and it eventually came out looking like this. Once the paint was all removed, the body was actually in really good shape, and there were little to no casting errors actually, which I was pretty impressed with. I used Krylon Color Max White Primer and Krylon Color Masters Bright White to paint the body. I picked up a couple water slide decals off of eBay from RWNEFF1. And I'm going to attempt to recreate Buddy Baker's 1966 City Chevrolet Chevelle. Try saying that 3 times fast. All I'm using to apply these decals is some microset and some water. And these decals are very high quality, and I haven't had any problems with them. I've used quite a few decals from RWNEFF1, and I've always been really impressed by them. Here's a question for everybody. When you go back and look at the NASCAR races from the 60s and probably the early 70s, a lot of the cars are painted white. Does anybody know why all those cars are painted white? If you do, let me know, because I want to know too. But what I think is, at that time, it was cheaper to go buy a white car from a dealership, and that's what NASCAR was all about back then. Race on Sunday, buy on Monday. At least that's my theory. I could be wrong, but I'm curious to see what your guys' thoughts are. So who was Buddy Baker, and why make a car that he drove? Well, simply put, Buddy Baker was a pretty badass NASCAR driver. He started racing in 1959. His last race was actually in 1992. In the Winston 500 at Talladega. Over his racing career, he had 19 wins and 311 top 10 finishes. In 1998, he was voted one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers of all time. And if that wasn't enough, he is also a member of the International Motorsports Hall of Fame. I would say that is a pretty impressive racing career, if I do say so myself. And now you know, and knowing is half the battle. So getting back to the Chevelle that we're working on here, these decals are actually going on incredibly easy. The decals are a little bit thick, but I actually kind of like that because it's easier to move the decals around once you lay it down. Some of these decals that I've used are just really super thin, and the second you place them down, they kind of get stuck, and if you try and move them around, they fold or crinkle or whatever, but they get all messed up. And so far, I'm really happy with the way these are going on. I think the Chevelles that Chevrolet made during the 60s are some of the coolest muscle cars around, especially the 67 Chevelle, which is my favorite year of Chevelle. But they used it on so many different platforms. The El Camino and the station wagon. It was a very versatile frame and body for the most part for Chevy that they made a ton of money on. The first Chevelles rolled off the assembly line in 1964 and started hitting the NASCAR tracks not very long after that. Chevelles were very prevalent in NASCAR in the late 60s and pretty much all through the 70s until 1977 when Chevy stopped making the Chevelles. They renamed it for 78 into the Malibu, but Chevelle kind of died out after that. Although rumor has it 2020 might see a brand new Chevelle, so we'll see how that turns out. All the decals are on, and if I do say so myself, it is looking pretty sweet. Looks like it's ready to go tear up a track somewhere. I do like the minimalist decals compared to some of the newer NASCARs that we got that just have sponsor decals everywhere they can place them. I kind of like the less is more approach. I ended up doing a wheel swap. Not because I wanted to, but once again, I succeeded in gluing the back wheels together when I tried to place them in there. So I had to switch out the wheels. These are not FTE wheels, but they do roll pretty dang well. One unexpected benefit of working with these Chevelles is the wheels and axles are pretty universal with a lot of other Hot Wheel cars that are out there. So it wasn't too hard to find some wheels and axles that would fit correctly. Especially compared to the Monte Carlos I worked on a while back. There's very few wheels and axles that actually go with those Monte Carlos. So this was a pleasant surprise, especially when I glued those wheels together. I think it's ready to get this bad boy back together. I'm using my 2x56 by 3/16 button head screws and my .050 driver to put it all together. One thing to keep in mind if you're customizing these Hot Wheels is you don't need to over tighten these screws. You just need to get it in there where it's snug and won't back out, and you don't have to really wrench on it and make sure it's super tight. What I do also is I'll get it tight to where I want it, and I'll put a little drop of super glue on there just to make sure they won't back out. Well, it is time for the moment of truth. Let's see how this all turns out. And there you have it. Oh man, I am really happy with the way this turned out. Especially with those wheels on there. I am really pleased with this one. I think it's got a cool little stance to it. One thing I do wish though is I wish I would have painted the back end just above the bumper. Hot Wheels made it all chrome and I didn't change it. I think it would have a nice little detail that if painted would have probably brought the car together a little bit better. But overall, I'm still really happy with the way it turned out. All in all, I think this was actually one of my easier builds other than the wheels getting glued together. Everything went together really easy and it was a pretty fun build that I think turned out really well. Before I get going here, I gotta say thank you to all you guys that have subscribed. I am so appreciative of everybody. And we hit a milestone here the other day, 400 subscribers, which blows my mind because I never thought I'd get 100, let alone 400. I think I'm actually at 408 right now. But thank you guys so much. I so appreciate it. I am a little bit disappointed. I was going to do a live stream when I hit 400, but YouTube has since taken that away from me since I don't have 1,000 viewers. But hopefully I'll be at 1,000 here sometime soon, and we'll do something cool. I'm working on a pretty sweet giveaway that I'll give you some more information on in the near future. But in the meantime, thank you guys for watching. Head on over to Toon Tracks Racing. See what Jason's doing, racing some cars over there for a good cause. And let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And we will see you on the next one.